Dexter Morgan, the titular character of the hit series Dexter, is known for his meticulous code and relentless need to satisfy his dark passenger. While Dexter's life revolves around bringing his own brand of justice to those who have escaped it, there are moments when he decides not to kill. These instances reveal a complex moral code and provide insights into his humanity, his relationships, and his internal struggles. Here are 6 unforgettable times when Dexter refused to kill and why. Dexter Morgan's relationship with his adoptive sister Deborah is one of the most compelling and emotionally charged aspects of the series. From the very beginning, it's clear that Deborah plays a vital role in Dexter's life. She's more than just his sister. She's his confidant, his anchor to the world of normalcy, and one of the few people he genuinely cares about. This bond is tested to its limits when Deborah discovers the horrifying truth about Dexter's double life as a serial killer. Deborah's discovery doesn't come all at once. Over the years, she begins to notice inconsistencies in Dexter's behavior, moments where his actions don't quite align with his outward persona. However, the full revelation is a devastating blow. When she finally realizes that her brother is the Bay Harbor butcher, the emotional weight of this truth threatens to crush her. For Deborah, it's not just about the fact that Dexter kills. It's about reconciling the brother she loves with the monster she now sees. Her shock, anger, and betrayal are palpable, but so is her deep love for him. For Dexter, Deborah is the one person he cannot hurt, not emotionally, and certainly not physically. Despite his cold and calculated approach to life, his feelings for Deborah are genuine and deeply rooted. She represents a connection to his humanity, a tether to the life Harry tried to give him. Dexter's internal conflict becomes evident as he struggles to maintain their relationship, while also protecting his dark secret. When Deborah confronts him, demanding to know the truth, Dexter doesn't deny it. Instead, he is honest in a way he rarely allows himself to be, showing how much he values her trust and their bond. The ultimate test of Dexter's restraint comes when Deborah finds herself in a situation where she could turn him in or even stop him permanently. There are moments when she has a gun pointed at him, trembling with indecision as tears stream down her face. She knows what Dexter is, but she also knows who he is to her. Dexter, in these moments, does not defend himself or attempt to manipulate her. He simply stands there, vulnerable and exposed, trusting that Deborah's love for him will outweigh her fear. Dexter's refusal to harm Deborah is not just about familial loyalty. It's about his moral compass, twisted as it may be. Harry's code, the set of rules Dexter follows to channel his homicidal urges, teaches him to kill only those who deserve it, those who are guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt. Deborah, for all her flaws and struggles, is undeniably good. She's a dedicated cop who puts her life on the line to protect others. Killing Deborah would not only violate the code, but also destroy the last remnant of humanity Dexter clings to. This dynamic comes to a head when Deborah saves Dexter's life, even after learning the full extent of his actions. In doing so, she makes a choice to protect him, despite the cost to her own conscience and career. Her love for him is unconditional, even as it tears her apart. Similarly, Dexter's love for Deborah keeps him from crossing a line he could never return from. Even when their relationship becomes strained to the breaking point, and Deborah herself begins to spiral under the weight of the truth, Dexter remains committed to protecting her at all costs. This refusal to harm Deborah also reflects Dexter's capacity for growth. As the series progresses, it becomes clear that his relationship with her is one of the few things that makes him question his own nature. He begins to see her as more than just his sister. She becomes a mirror reflecting his potential for redemption. In sparing her, Dexter spares himself, keeping alive the possibility that he might one day find a way to live without his dark passenger. The bond between Dexter and Deborah is as complex as it is tragic. Their love for each other transcends the darkness that defines Dexter's life, creating moments of raw emotion and humanity in a story otherwise steeped in blood. By refusing to harm Deborah, Dexter reveals the depth of his feelings for her and the limits of his own darkness. This choice is one of the defining moments of the series, showing that even the most broken among us can find solace in the people we love. Miguel Prado is one of the most fascinating and tragic figures in Dexter's life. His introduction into Dexter's world begins unexpectedly, as Miguel, a high-profile assistant district attorney, loses his brother, Oscar, to Dexter's blade during a kill gone wrong. Miguel's grief and desire for justice, combined with his personal charisma, draw Dexter into a dangerous relationship that blurs the lines between ally and adversary. Their bond is unique and unsettling, built on shared secrets and a growing sense of trust, but it ultimately unravels in devastating fashion. At first, Dexter is wary of Miguel. After all, Miguel is a powerful figure in Miami's legal system, and any misstep could expose Dexter's carefully hidden double life. But Miguel's charm and persistence win Dexter over, leading to an unlikely friendship. For Dexter, Miguel represents something he's never had before: a confidant who knows a portion of his truth and not only accepts it, but encourages it. Miguel's admiration for Dexter stems from a belief that Dexter is a righteous force of justice, eliminating those the system cannot touch. As their friendship deepens, Miguel learns more about Dexter's methods and motives. The two men share an intense camaraderie, united by their disdain for traditional justice and their belief in taking matters into their own hands. Dexter begins to see Miguel as someone who truly understands him, someone who can share the burden of his dark passenger. For a brief moment, Dexter feels a sense of connection and acceptance that he has never experienced before. Miguel becomes more than an ally. He becomes a symbol of what Dexter has longed for, someone who can embrace both his darkness and his sense of justice. However, this newfound friendship is not without complications. Miguel's thirst for vengeance begins to spiral out of control, threatening the very code that Dexter lives by. While Dexter operates with precision and a strict set of rules, Miguel lacks the discipline and moral boundaries that define Harry's code. This divergence becomes painfully clear when Miguel targets Ellen Wolf, a defense attorney he despises for her role in protecting criminals. Despite Dexter's warnings, Miguel insists on eliminating her, even though she doesn't fit Dexter's criteria for a kill. This moment marks a turning point in their relationship. Dexter realizes that Miguel is not a kindred spirit but a dangerous liability. Miguel's reckless behavior and lack of restraint make him a threat not only to Dexter's code, but also to Dexter's survival. The trust and camaraderie they shared begin to crumble as Dexter grapples with the realization that Miguel's motivations are far more personal and self-serving than he initially believed. What began as a partnership built on shared ideals devolves into a dangerous power struggle. Dexter's refusal to kill Miguel immediately is a testament to the complexity of their bond. Despite Miguel's betrayal and growing instability, Dexter hesitates, torn between his own rules and the lingering sense of friendship he feels. For Dexter, Miguel is more than just a potential victim. He's someone who once gave Dexter a glimpse of what a life with connection and understanding might look like. Ending Miguel's life would mean not only eliminating a threat, but also severing a relationship that, for a time, felt meaningful and real. Instead of rushing to judgment, Dexter tries to manage Miguel's behavior, hoping to steer him back toward a more controlled and ethical approach. He gives Miguel multiple chances to redeem himself, attempting to instill some sense of responsibility and discipline. But Miguel's arrogance and thirst for power prove insurmountable. He begins to see himself as untouchable, believing that he can manipulate Dexter to serve his own ends. As Miguel's actions grow increasingly reckless, Dexter is forced to confront the harsh reality that Miguel cannot be saved. Still, Dexter's decision to spare Miguel, even temporarily, highlights his struggle with loyalty and betrayal. Miguel's presence in Dexter's life represents both a unique connection and a cautionary tale about the dangers of aligning with someone who shares only part of his code. It's a relationship that forces Dexter to reevaluate the very principles that guide him and the limits of his trust. Ultimately, Miguel's downfall is inevitable, But the path to that conclusion is fraught with tension and introspection. Dexter's hesitation to kill him, even when it becomes clear that Miguel is a threat, underscores the depth of their complicated relationship. Miguel is not just another name on Dexter's table. He's a friend, a confidant, and a mirror reflecting both the potential and the peril of embracing darkness without restraint. In the end, Miguel's betrayal and subsequent unraveling serve as a painful reminder to Dexter that his world is one of isolation. The bond they shared, however fleeting, leaves a lasting impact on Dexter, shaping his understanding of trust, friendship, and the dangers of letting someone into his darkest secrets. Miguel Prado is more than just a cautionary figure in Dexter's life. He's a symbol of the fine line between ally and adversary, and the consequences of crossing it. Hannah McKay's arrival in Dexter's life marks a turning point, both for him and for the series as a whole. From the moment she steps into his world, it's clear that Hannah is unlike anyone Dexter has ever encountered. She is not just a love interest, she is a mirror to Dexter's soul, reflecting both his darkness and the possibility of something more. Their relationship is complex, fraught with danger and tension, but it also brings out a side of Dexter that is rarely seen, a side that longs for connection, for love, and for a life beyond the constraints of Harry's code. Hannah is introduced as a mysterious and alluring figure, a woman with a dark past who is tied to a series of murders. Dexter initially approaches her as a target, investigating her involvement in crimes that fit the criteria of his code. However, as he delves deeper into her story, he discovers a kindred spirit. Like Dexter, Hannah has committed terrible acts, but she has done so out of necessity and survival rather than pure malice. This distinction intrigues Dexter, challenging his assumptions about guilt, justice, and the people he chooses to kill. What sets Hannah apart from Dexter's other relationships is her ability to see through him completely. She recognizes his darkness almost immediately, and rather than recoiling, she embraces it. For Dexter, who has spent his entire life hiding his true self, this is both exhilarating and terrifying. Hannah doesn't just accept him, she understands him. She sees the predator lurking beneath his calm exterior, and instead of fearing it, she respects it. This level of understanding creates an instant and profound connection between them, one that defies Dexter's usual barriers. Dexter's initial plan to eliminate Hannah becomes complicated as he finds himself drawn to her. Her beauty, intelligence, and confidence captivate him, but it's her honesty about who she is that truly disarms him. When Hannah openly admits to her crimes, Dexter is struck by her candor and lack of remorse. In her, he sees a reflection of his own unflinching acceptance of his dark passenger. This mutual recognition of their true natures lays the foundation for their relationship, one that is built on a shared understanding of the darkness within them both. As their relationship develops, Dexter faces a conflict unlike any he has experienced before. On one hand, Hannah represents a threat to his code and his way of life. She has killed, and by his own rules, she should be a target. On the other hand, she represents a rare opportunity for connection and love, something Dexter has always believed was out of reach for him. This internal struggle forces Dexter to question the rigidity of his code and the purpose it serves. Is it truly about justice, or has it become a shield to protect him from vulnerability? Hannah, for her part, challenges Dexter in ways no one else has. She is not afraid to call out his hypocrisies or push him to confront his fears. She refuses to be a passive participant in his life, demanding that he be honest with her and with himself. This dynamic shifts the balance of power in their relationship, creating a partnership that is both passionate and volatile. Unlike Dexter's previous relationships, which were built on deception and control, his connection with Hannah is marked by a rare equality. They are both predators, both broken in their own ways, and both searching for something more. Their love is not without its complications. Dexter's world is one of secrecy and danger, and his relationship with Hannah inevitably draws her into his chaotic life. As their bond deepens, Dexter finds himself torn between his need to protect her and his fear of what their connection might mean for his carefully constructed identity. This tension comes to a head when Dexter is faced with the decision to kill Hannah or let her go. It is a moment that tests the limits of his code and his capacity for love. In choosing to spare Hannah, Dexter makes a choice that defies everything he has believed about himself. It is not a decision driven by logic or his code, but by emotion. For the first time, Dexter allows himself to prioritize his own happiness over the rules that have governed his life. This act of mercy is both a surrender and a declaration, a recognition that, in Hannah, he has found someone worth breaking the rules for. Hannah's influence on Dexter extends far beyond their romantic relationship. She forces him to confront questions about his identity, his morality, and his capacity for change. Through her, Dexter glimpses the possibility of a life beyond his dark passenger, a life where he is not defined solely by his need to kill. While their relationship is far from perfect, it represents a rare moment of hope in Dexter's otherwise bleak existence. In the end, Hannah remains one of the most significant figures in Dexter's life. Her presence challenges him, inspires him, and ultimately transforms him. Their love story is not a conventional one, but it is deeply affecting, revealing a side of Dexter that is rarely seen. In sparing Hannah, Dexter does more than save her life. He saves a part of himself, proving that even in the darkest of hearts, there is room for love. Sergeant James Dokes is one of the most tenacious and morally grounded characters in Dexter, and his relationship with Dexter is fraught with tension from the very beginning. Unlike most of Dexter's colleagues, who are oblivious to his hidden nature, Dokes senses something off about Dexter almost immediately. This gut instinct evolves into an obsession, as Dokes becomes the only person in Miami Metro to suspect that Dexter is hiding something sinister beneath his calm, genial facade. This dynamic sets the stage for one of the most intense and consequential conflicts of the series. Dokes' suspicion is not baseless. His sharp instincts and military training allow him to pick up on the subtle cracks in Dexter's mask. While others see Dexter as an eccentric but harmless bloodspatter analyst, Dokes sees something darker, a predator lurking beneath the surface. His unrelenting scrutiny becomes a constant source of tension for Dexter, who is accustomed to flying under the radar. For the first time, Dexter finds himself hunted, forced to outmaneuver someone who refuses to be fooled by his carefully constructed facade. The conflict between Dexter and Dokes escalates as Dokes begins to uncover the truth. He starts following Dexter, questioning his every move and even confronting him directly on several occasions. This relentless pursuit puts Dexter in a precarious position, forcing him to consider the possibility of killing Dokes to protect his secret. However, Dexter hesitates, and this hesitation reveals a key aspect of his character: his adherence to Harry's code. Dokes, despite being a threat, is innocent. He has not killed anyone, nor does he fit the profile of Dexter's usual victims. Killing Dokes would violate the very rules that define Dexter's sense of justice and morality. This moral dilemma creates an intense internal conflict for Dexter. On one hand, Dokes represents a clear and present danger to his double life. If Dokes exposes him, everything Dexter has built, his career, his relationships, and his ability to continue killing, will come crashing down. On the other hand, Dexter cannot bring himself to kill an innocent man, even one as determined and dangerous as Dokes. This restraint highlights Dexter's humanity and his unwavering commitment to the principles instilled in him by Harry. The situation reaches a boiling point when Dokes discovers evidence that directly links Dexter to the Bay Harbor butcher killings. This discovery forces Dexter to take drastic measures to protect himself. He captures Dokes and locks him in a remote cabin, effectively neutralizing the threat without resorting to murder. This decision is significant because it shows that even under extreme pressure, Dexter refuses to abandon his code. He chooses a path that preserves his moral framework, even if it complicates his life. While Dokes is imprisoned, the tension between him and Dexter deepens. Dokes confronts Dexter with the truth about who he is, refusing to back down or beg for his life. This unyielding defiance earns Dokes a measure of respect from Dexter, who admires his strength and integrity. In a way, Dokes represents everything Dexter wishes he could be. A man who operates within the law, who stands by his principles, and who fights for justice without succumbing to the darkness. Dexter's interactions with Dokes during this time are deeply revealing. For all his bravado and detachment, Dexter struggles with the weight of what he has done. Keeping Dokes imprisoned goes against his usual methods, forcing him to confront the consequences of his actions in a way he rarely has to. The situation becomes even more complicated when other factors, including external threats and unforeseen events, come into play. Dexter is forced to navigate a complex web of lies, deception, and moral ambiguity, all while grappling with his own feelings of guilt and responsibility. The eventual fate of Dokes is one of the most tragic and controversial moments in the series. While Dexter does not directly kill Dokes, the situation he creates ultimately leads to Dokes' death. A vengeful Lila sets fire to the cabin where Dokes is being held, killing him in the process. This act absolves Dexter of the immediate threat, but it also leaves him with a lingering sense of guilt and regret. Dokes' death is a reminder that even when Dexter adheres to his code, his actions have consequences that ripple far beyond his control. The relationship between Dexter and Dokes is one of the most compelling aspects of the series. It forces Dexter to confront his own morality, his limits, and the cost of living a double life. Dokes' unrelenting pursuit and ultimate demise serve as a stark reminder that the lines between right and wrong are never as clear-cut as Dexter likes to believe. In refusing to kill Dokes, Dexter upholds his code, but he also sets in motion a chain of events that will haunt him for the rest of his life. Dokes' legacy in the series is profound. He is one of the few characters who sees Dexter for who he truly is, and his determination to expose the truth makes him a formidable adversary. His death, while tragic, underscores the high stakes of Dexter's world and the moral complexity of his choices. By sparing Dokes, Dexter proves that he is more than just a killer. He is a man bound by a code, struggling to navigate the murky waters of his own morality. Jonah Mitchell, the son of Arthur Mitchell, better known as the Trinity Killer, presents Dexter with one of the most emotionally complex dilemmas of his life. Arthur is one of the most notorious killers Dexter ever encounters, leaving a trail of devastation that includes Dexter's own personal tragedy. However, Jonah, unlike his father, is not a seasoned killer, but a young man grappling with the monstrous legacy left behind by his family. His struggles force Dexter to confront the nature of guilt, redemption, and the possibility of breaking free from a cycle of violence. Dexter's initial encounter with Jonah occurs during his investigation into the Trinity Killer. Arthur Mitchell, outwardly a model family man, hides a sinister and violent life that he keeps carefully compartmentalized. As Dexter delves deeper into Arthur's life, he discovers the toxic and abusive environment that Jonah and his siblings have endured for years. Jonah's anger toward his father is evident, and it serves as a stark contrast to the reverence and loyalty that Arthur demands from his family. The Mitchell family dynamic fascinates Dexter, as it mirrors aspects of his own upbringing. Arthur's manipulative control and psychological torment create an oppressive environment, one that fosters resentment and rebellion in Jonah. Unlike Dexter, who is guided and controlled by Harry's code, Jonah has no such framework to navigate his anger and pain. This lack of guidance leaves Jonah vulnerable, and it becomes clear to Dexter that Jonah is teetering on the edge of darkness. After Arthur's death, Jonah's life spirals further out of control. The death of his father, coupled with the disintegration of his family, leaves him isolated and haunted by the trauma of his past. When Dexter re-encounters Jonah, he learns that Jonah's mother and sister have died under suspicious circumstances. The deaths appear to be part of the same pattern of violence that defined Arthur's reign of terror. Dexter, driven by his code, investigates Jonah, suspecting that he may have inherited his father's homicidal tendencies. What Dexter discovers is far more complicated than he anticipated. Jonah confesses to killing his mother in a fit of rage, unable to endure her emotional manipulation and the constant reminders of his father's legacy. However, he vehemently denies any involvement in his sister's death, insisting that it was a suicide caused by the unbearable weight of their family's history. Dexter is faced with a difficult choice. Does Jonah deserve to die for his actions, or is he a victim of circumstances beyond his control? This encounter forces Dexter to confront questions about his own morality and the rigidity of Harry's code. Jonah's actions, while undeniably violent, are driven by pain and desperation rather than a calculated desire to kill. Dexter recognizes this desperation, seeing echoes of his own struggle with his dark passenger. Jonah's remorse and guilt are genuine, and his confession is not an attempt to evade responsibility, but a cry for help. For Dexter, this level of honesty is rare, and it resonates deeply with him. Dexter's decision to spare Jonah is a pivotal moment in the series. It represents a significant departure from his usual methods and a step toward a more nuanced understanding of justice. Instead of seeing Jonah as a killer to be eliminated, Dexter sees him as a young man at a crossroads. He recognizes that Jonah is not beyond redemption, and that killing him would only perpetuate the cycle of violence that Arthur began. By sparing Jonah, Dexter chooses to break that cycle, offering a glimmer of hope that Jonah might find a way to heal and move forward. The encounter with Jonah also forces Dexter to reflect on his own potential for change. If Jonah, burdened by the weight of his father's legacy, can choose a different path, then perhaps Dexter can too. This realization is both empowering and unsettling for Dexter, as it challenges the very foundation of his identity. For so long, Dexter has defined himself by his dark passenger, believing that it is an unchangeable part of who he is. Jonah's survival offers a counterpoint to that belief, suggesting that even those who have been shaped by darkness can find a way to escape it. Jonah's story is one of the rare moments in the series where Dexter's actions are driven not by the need to kill, but by the desire to protect. In sparing Jonah, Dexter assumes a role that is almost paternal, guiding Jonah away from the abyss and toward a chance at redemption. This shift in perspective adds depth to Dexter's character, showing that his moral compass, while flawed, is not entirely rigid. It also highlights the humanity that still exists within him, buried beneath the layers of his dark persona. The impact of this decision lingers long after Dexter leaves Jonah behind. It serves as a reminder of the complexities of morality and the importance of empathy, even in the darkest of circumstances. Jonah's story is a testament to the idea that not everyone who stumbles into violence is beyond saving. For Dexter, it is a rare moment of clarity and hope, a glimpse of a world where justice is not defined solely by death, but by the possibility of redemption.